We have a Honda Crf250r. What needs to be done is the oil and the oil filter. When I drain the oil from both sides, because this has an engine oil and also a transmission oil, they're both really black and bad. And then the oil filter, which I'll show you, is actually really bad too. Another thing that I did to this is I adjusted the valve clearances and then I had to retime it. So I'm waiting on the valve cover gasket. It should be here in like 2 days. Also, if you saw one of my recent videos, I put one up about having metal in the transmission, and I wasn't really sure what it was from, if it was a gear or a clip. To me, it didn't really look like a gear because the metal wasn't that thick. It was more thin. So to me, it seemed like a clip, but either way, we're gonna change the oil. Anyways, we're gonna move on to putting these caps in. I have the other cap off on the other side here. Right there. And pretty much I gotta put those covers on just before I fill it up. We're gonna put the new oil filter in. So I got everything right here. I got the new oil filter, OEM one, and then I got that seal for this cover here. I'll show you guys the oil filter. Looks like there's like just tiny bits of metal. You could see some built up right there. But either way, the oil and the oil filter has not been changed in a while, which isn't really too good and could wear parts down faster. But yeah, we're gonna start by putting these in first, then the oil filter, then we're gonna add the oil to both sides. I have the correct amount right here. It's 7 cc, which is 3/4 of this quart here. Alright, we're gonna take this old seal out. I don't really care if we damage it because it's garbage now. And here's the brand new one. It's also not a bad idea just to skim like a little oil on this seal, just like so it doesn't rip or anything, and then not like a crazy amount, just like a little bit of a glaze. I'll show you. So just like that, rub it in. That's all you need. Here's the old filter right here. It literally tells you which side has the spring and which side faces the filter cover. So you really can't mess that up. But just to help you guys out, this rubber piece goes into the filter cover. You can see towards filter cover, and that pretty much means right in this hole here. So you just press it in, and then that's it. And then you got this little spring here, and that just goes right in that little hole right there in the filter. If you could just see that spacing in there, that's like right where the spring sits, so you want to make sure it gets in there. sometimes it could actually just fall out and just not be in place. So just make sure it stays in this filter, and at the same time make sure it doesn't just fall out. And actually, see, there you go, watch. When I let go, it wants to pop out. So that's how you know that the spring's in the right place and everything else is good. So then you could just tighten these bolts. You have the long one up here and then the short one on the bottom. So that's it for the filter and the filter cover. The last thing I'm going to do here is put this bolt in. This is for the transmission oil. If you can see that hole back there, that's where you drain it from. I already cleaned the bolt off and the case where the hole is. You always want to make sure that's dry and clean, just so that the rust washer won't leak. So like I said, we got 700 cc. That's the full total amount we need in each side. So once you come over here, this is the cc, and it only goes up to 500. So what we're doing is we're gonna do 400, then we're just gonna do another 300 after, and that'll be 700. You could also see I'm using 1030. You could either use 1030 or 1040. So this side doesn't have a dipstick, but the other side does, just in case you don't really know the full amount. So technically the right amount is 690 cc. I'm pretty sure it's like 685 to 690. So that's why I just left a little bit at the bottom. All right, moving on to the side. So we're gonna take off this dipstick and then fill it in there. And then, yeah, you can see, so just be careful with this dipstick because you don't want it to get caught in anything because how long it is, and you don't want that snapping off inside there. That would be bad. And then, yeah, just another tip is to watch the threads with the seal. Sometimes the seal wants the threads to kind of move around. So just make sure you're not cross-threading it or anything like that. So this side is definitely a smaller hole, but so that was only 400 cc. So we're just gonna check just for the hell of it. It should be like a little over halfway. You can see it's getting there, so that's good. We're gonna clean it off and check it again. So there you go, it's about halfway. That's what we want. So now we could add the extra 300. All right, yeah, so that's good, it's full. You can see it's super clear. Just be careful of that seal. I'll show you, hold on. So you can see it just came out, actually stuck to the dipstick. So just keep that in mind if you always want to have that seal in there, but just make sure you don't lose it. So like I said before, the last thing I gotta do is wait for this valve cover to ship in and start cleaning that surface off, because it's got some type of sealant on there, probably because that one wasn't sealing. That's usually when people use the gasket maker. Back to some of my other shorts, when I did the transmission, I think I took a video of how dark that was, and you could tell it's been so long since it's seen new oil. So I'm wondering if that could have caused, you know, something to let go in there and something to break. Either way, I'm not really sure. Didn't get much information about these bikes when they were dropped off, but I think for the hell of it, we just try to shift through the gears just to make sure. So that's first gear. Second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. All right, so that's good. That's first. Let's see if we could. Okay, it's neutral. All right, so that's good. That's always a good sign. So I'll be able to test it once I get that valve cover on, and then we'll be able to see if there's any other issues with how it runs, any leaks like that, because it came to me non-running. So when it comes to you non-running, you don't really have an insight of what else could be going on. You know, you have a head gasket leak, a cylinder like all that stuff could just pop up out of nowhere. So yeah, definitely got to get it running, test it out. You can see I got the forks off this one. I actually got the caliper up here just because I didn't want to leave it hanging. Yeah, so we got the fork oil in here. I'll show you it's 5 weight. We got 2 bottles of it, and we're just waiting for the seals here. I mean, you could see that's a leaky fork seal. So we didn't want to replace the bushings just because it costed too much to do that. So instead we're just going to do the seals and the oil on this. Still waiting for the fuel screw to come in so I could put the new one in because that one's bent and it doesn't have the seals or the springs. And then the last thing is just putting those master cylinder caps on. You could see he didn't really like how this one looked, so we're gonna change that out. And then if we go over to the rear brake, you can see that's just kind of the stock one, and he wanted to just put the new ones on. That's gonna be it for changing the oil and the filter. If you didn't know how, hopefully that helped. And if you got any questions about anything else, like the specs on something, I pretty much have everything written out. I'm obviously gonna show them what I saw with the metal. That's a no-brainer because you always want to let the customer know what's up and what's happening. And it's just something that I ran into with no backstory pretty much. Just like this one, it didn't have a fuel screw in it, and I was working on it. And then all of a sudden he texts me, he's like, oh, this fuel screw came out when I was riding. I was like, yeah, I couldn't find one on there. So that's pretty weird. And then I thought to myself, well, that plays a big role in how a bike runs. Like a big role. I'm gonna put a video up on like the fuel screw and how people kind of need to give more insight before they throw something at you, because when you're a mechanic or kind of relates to a doctor, you need to know everything about the background. Well, if something was messed up in the bottom end here, I never knew that. It wasn't running because the clearances were off and just stuff like that. So when I have the time into it and the customer won't tell me something like its backstory, then we got a problem. Either way, it's not a big deal. So that's gonna be it. I'm gonna test it out pretty soon and I'll update you guys on that. Probably have a video of it running and a walk around. And I'll let you guys know what's up with that transmission. Hopefully it's all right and there's no issues.